In the previous lecture, we have discussed the basic concept of diffraction and we have studied the Huygens-Fresnel theory of diffraction. So we are repeating the Huygens-Fresnel theory of diffraction. Now what is Huygens principle? Now Huygens principle, it states that every point on a wavefront, it acts as a source of secondary spherical wavelets. So every point on the wavefront. So this first diagram which is shown, it is the plane wavefront, and this diagram shown, it is the case of the spherical wavefront. Now Huygens principle, it states that every point on the primary wavefront. So this line, the green line shown over here, it represents the plane wavefront. Now every point on this wavefront, so we have drawn 3 points on this wavefront. So every point, it will act as a source of secondary spherical wavelets. So every point on the wavefront, it will act as a point source, and spherical wavefronts will be emitted in the forward direction by these point sources. Similarly, the second point, it will also emit the spherical wavefront, and third point, and so on. All the points on this wavefront, they will emit spherical secondary wavelets. Now the new wavefront is the surface tangent to all these secondary spherical wavelets. Now when we will draw the tangent to all these secondary wavelets, so these curved portions, these spherical portions which are shown by blue color, these are the secondary wavelets. So now when we draw the tangent to the surfaces of these secondary wavelets, so these are the tangent, and when we will join all the tangents, it will give rise to new wavefront. So this line which is shown by pink color, it is the new wavefront, and it arises by joining the tangents to these spherical secondary wavelets. So this was the case of the plane wavefront. Now similar thing happens for the spherical wavefront also. So this is the spherical wavefront, primary spherical wavefront. Now every point on this wavefront, so we have drawn 4 points. So every point on this wavefront, it will act as a source of secondary spherical wavelets. So every point, it will act as a point source, so it will emit spherical wavefronts in the forward direction, and when we will join all the tangents to these spherical wavefronts, these secondary spherical wavefronts, so when we will join the tangent, it will give rise to the new wavefront. So this first case is for the case of plane wavefront, and the second one is for the spherical wavefront. So this is the Huygens principle, and Fresnel, he used the Huygens principle to explain the theory of diffraction. Now this is the plane wavefront. These are the parallel rays which are falling on this aperture, and these are the parallel rays, so the wavefront will be a plane wavefront. So this portion of the wavefront which is falling on the slit, or you can say which is falling on the aperture, it is the exposed part of the wavefront. So most of the wavefront, it will get blocked by these obstructions which are present, whereas only small portion of the wavefront, it will be exposed, and this will travel and will fall on the screen. So this portion on the aperture, it is exposed part of the wavefront, and every point on this wavefront, so using the Huygens principle, every point on this wavefront, it will act as a source of secondary spherical wavelets. So they will emit secondary wavefronts in the forward direction. So every point in this aperture, it will be a point source, so they will emit these spherical wavefronts in the forward direction. So now if we take any point on the screen, capital P, so these are the secondary spherical wavefronts which are emitted in all the directions after the light rays, they have passed the aperture. So after these light rays, they fall on the aperture, so the wavefronts, they will be now spherical in shape. So the secondary wavelets, they will be in spherical shape and they will be emitted in all the directions. So light, it will go in all the directions after it is obstructed by the aperture or the obstacle. Now if we take any point P on the screen and we observe what is the intensity of the light at this point on the screen, so the intensity, it will be superposition of the rays which are coming from all these point sources. So all the rays which are coming from these point sources, they will superimpose and net intensity will be seen at this point capital P, and this was the theory which was given by Fresnel. So Fresnel, he suggested that superposition of the secondary wavelets. So now there is superposition of these secondary wavelets. This will give rise to the diffraction pattern on the screen. So this is the reason of the diffraction pattern on. Now to explain the phenomenon of diffraction, Fresnel, he introduced the concept of half period zones. So in this topic we will discuss what are the half period zones, what is the construction of these zones, and what is the radius and area of these half period zones. Now Fresnel, he gave the concept of half period zones to explain the phenomenon of diffraction. For understanding the diffraction pattern, Fresnel introduced the idea of half period zones. Now what is the concept of these half period zones? The wavefront which is originating from the source. So we generally have a source and we have a slit or we have an obstacle and we have the screen. Now the wavefront which is emitted from the source, the wavefront originated from the source and which is striking the obstacle or the aperture, the wavefront is divided into, now keep in mind the wavefront which we are talking, this wavefront is divided into a number of circular and concentric zones. The wavefront, the primary wavefront which is falling on the slit or the obstacle, it is divided into a number of circular and concentric zones. Zone is the small area on the exposed part of the wavefront. So the wavefront, it will fall on the slit and that will be the exposed part of the wavefront. Now that imaginary wavefront that we draw, the plane wavefront that we will draw in this case, because these are the parallel rays, so the wavefront will be a plane wavefront. So that plane wavefront, it can be divided into number of circular and concentric zones, and we will see how these circular and concentric zones, they are constructed. Now this zone, it is the small area, so it is the small circular area on the exposed part of the wavefront. So the part of the wavefront which is falling on this aperture, that is called as the exposed part of the wavefront, because all other wavefront, part of the wavefront, it is obstructed by this obstacle. So only a small portion of the wavefront, it falls on the slit, and that is called as the exposed part of the wavefront. So zone which we are talking about, the half period zone, this zone, it is a small area on the exposed part of the wavefront with reference to the observation point. So there is an observation point on the screen. So with reference to that point, there are small areas which can be constructed on the exposed part of the wavefront, such that all the waves from that area which we are talking about, all the waves from that area, they reach the point, they reach the observation point without any path difference. So this is the property of zone, how these zones are constructed. First of all, these zones, they are circular and concentric zones, and the other condition is that all the waves which are coming from those zones, from a particular zone, so there are a many number of zones that can be constructed on the exposed part of the wavefront, and we will see how these zones are constructed in just few minutes. So we will see how these zones are constructed. But keep in mind, every zone, for a particular zone, all the waves which are coming from that particular zone, they reach the observation point without any path difference. So the waves which are coming from a particular zone, those waves which are reaching the observation point, they will not have any path difference. So this is the property of these zones. Now, in order to understand the construction of these half period zones, we take a plane wavefront A prime. So we have parallel rays which are coming from a particular source, and the wavefront of these parallel rays, it is a plane wavefront which will be perpendicular to these rays. So these rays, they will have a plane wavefront. So the wavefront, it is denoted by A prime in this case. So we take a plane wavefront A prime. Now we are considering the observation point where we want to find the intensity of the light. So we want to find the intensity of the light at this observation point which is on the screen. So let's say this is the observation point and it is represented by capital O. So let O be the observation point. Now we will draw a perpendicular from this observation point on the wavefront A prime. So we will draw a perpendicular from this point on the wavefront. Let's say the perpendicular, it strikes at the point capital M. So this capital M point, this point on the wavefront, so this is the foot of the perpendicular. So perpendicular has been drawn from this point O on this wavefront A prime, and it is striking or it is intersecting the wavefront at point capital M. So this point capital M on the wavefront, it is called as the pole of the wavefront. So dropping a perpendicular from the observation point on the wavefront, so that point where the perpendicular, it intersects with the wavefront, that point is called as the pole of the wavefront. So how these half period zones, they are constructed. So this is the main scenario, that we have a source and the parallel rays which are coming from the source, they fall on the obstacle, and then we have screen. So this point capital O, it is the point on the screen. Now if the distance OM is equal to x, the distance, this perpendicular distance, let's say this is equal to small x. So this distance, it will be fixed. Now then, taking O as the center, we will take O as the center and we will draw spheres of radii x plus lambda by 2, then x plus 2 lambda by 2, x plus 3 lambda by 2, and so on. So taking this O as the center, so when you will take O as the center, you will draw these spheres. You will draw spheres of radius x plus lambda by 2. So this distance OM, it is equal to x, and it is the shortest distance from the wavefront because it is the perpendicular that we have drawn. So this will be the shortest distance. So we draw spheres of radii x plus lambda by 2. First of all, you will draw a sphere of radius x plus lambda by 2. Now this distance, it is equal to x. So you have to draw a sphere of radius x plus lambda by 2. So obviously the radius, it will be larger than x. So when you will draw the sphere of radius x plus lambda by 2, so keep in mind you have to draw a sphere. So you have to draw a three-dimensional object. So it is quite imaginary. So you have to imagine that keeping O as the center, you have to draw a spherical shape. You have to draw a three-dimensional sphere of radius x plus lambda by 2. So this distance OM, it is equal to x. So now you have to draw the sphere of radius x plus lambda by 2. So x plus lambda by 2, you have to draw a sphere of radius x plus lambda by 2. Now when you will draw that radius, when you will draw that sphere of radius x plus lambda by 2, so you will see that the sphere, it will intersect with this plane wavefront on a circle. So the intersection of that sphere, so if you will draw a sphere of radius x plus lambda by 2 and keeping this capital O point as the center, so if you will draw a sphere, so obviously its radius will be greater than x because we are drawing a sphere of radius x plus lambda by 2. So when you will draw a sphere, you will see that that sphere, it will intersect with the wavefront AA prime and the intersection will be a circle. So that sphere, it will intersect with the plane AA prime and that intersection will be a circle. So this distance from the observation point, it will be equal to, this distance will be equal to x plus lambda by 2. So you have drawn a sphere of radius x plus lambda by 2, and when you will do so, you will see that that sphere, it will cut the primary wavefront AA prime by a circle. So all the points from this circle, all the points on this circle, they will be at an equal distance from the observation point, and that distance will be equal to x plus lambda by 2. Similarly, now you will draw a sphere of radius x plus 2 lambda by 2. So x plus 2 lambda by 2, obviously it is greater than x plus lambda by 2. So you have to draw a sphere of radius x plus 2 lambda by 2, keeping O as the constant. So when you will do so, when you will draw a three-dimensional spherical shape, keeping O as the constant, and you are keeping the radius as x plus 2 lambda by 2. So when you will do so, you will see that sphere which you will draw, that will cut this plane wavefront. Again it will cut by a circle. So the intersection will be a circle. That sphere and the plane wavefront, they will intersect with each other and the intersection will be a circle. So the radius of this circle, it will be greater than the previous radius. So this distance of this circle from the observation point, this distance, it will be equal to x plus 2 lambda by 2. So this is completely imaginary. You have to imagine that you are drawing a sphere of radius x plus lambda by 2. So that will cut the plane wavefront by this circle, and then again if you will draw a sphere of radius x plus 2 lambda by 2, that will again cut the primary wavefront with the circle with the larger radius. Then again if you will draw a sphere of radius x plus 3 lambda by 2, that will again cut the plane wavefront with even larger radius. So that distance from the observation point, it will be equal to x plus 3 lambda by 2. So similarly you can draw n number of circles. So let's say this point it is equal to m1, second point is m2, and third point is m3, and so on. So the spheres will cut the wavefront AA prime in circles of radii mm1, mm2, mm3, and so on. So these spheres which we are drawing, keeping O as the center, so these will cut the wavefront AA prime in circles of radius mm1. So first circle, it will have a radius of mm1, second circle, it will have a radius of mm2, third circle, it will have a radius of mm3, and so on. So nth circle, it will have a radius of mmn. The annular regions between the two consecutive circles, the annular region, the region, for example, between m1 and m2, the region between the circle m1 and m2, this will be an annular region. So these annular regions between the two consecutive circles, so the region between the first and the second circle, it will be an annular region. Similarly, the region between m2 and m3 circle, it will also be an annular region. So this annular region between the two consecutive circles are called as half period zone. So this is the definition of half period zone, that we, on drawing these circles with a distance of x plus lambda by 2 x plus 2 lambda by 2, x plus 3 lambda by 2 from the observation point. So these annular regions which are drawn between the two consecutive circles, these are called as half period zones. Now it is clear from the figure that the path of the light rays from the successive zones, they differ by lambda by 2. So this is an imaginary plane wavefront. So parallel light rays, they are traveling in a straight line. So parallel light rays, they are traveling, and we have drawn an imaginary primary wavefront on these parallel rays. So this is an imaginary wavefront, and then we have divided the wavefront into small circles. So first we have drawn a small first circle of radius mm1, second circle has been drawn of radius mm2, and so on. So the wavefront has been divided into zones. So these zones are formed. So we have divided the exposed part of the wavefront into small areas. So these are called as half period zones, and you can see that the light which is coming from all the points on the circumference of the first circle. So all the points on the circumference of the first circle, they will act as a source of secondary wavefront. They will act as a source of secondary wavelet. So these are the point sources. So on all the points on the first circle, all the points, they will have equal path, they will travel equal path to the point capital O. So all the points on the circumference of the first circle, they will be at an equal distance from the observation point O, whereas all the points on the second circle, they will travel a path of x plus 2 lambda by 2. Now the points on the first circle, the light rays which are coming from the points of the first circle, it will travel a distance of x plus lambda by 2. Then the points on the second circle, the wave which is coming from the circumference of the second circle, those waves, they will travel a path of x plus 2 lambda by 2. Similarly, the waves which are originating from the circumference of the third circle, so those rays, they will travel a path of x plus 3 lambda by 2, and so on. So you can clearly see that the path of the light rays from the successive zones, so from the first and the second circle, second and the third circle, so you can see that the path difference between the light, it is differing by lambda by 2. The path difference of lambda by 2 corresponds to half time period. So if there is a lambda by 2 path difference, it corresponds to half wave, means it corresponds to half time period. So lambda by 2, it is the half wave, so it can be a crest or it can be just trough. So lambda by 2, it represents half wave, and it also corresponds to half time period. So for lambda by 2, the time period is capital T, and for lambda divided by 2, the time period of the wave will be T by 2. So the path difference of lambda by 2, it corresponds to half time period. Therefore, these are known as Fresnel's half period zones. So this is why the name half period zones has been given to these annular regions. So this is because the path of the light rays from the successive zones, it differs by lambda by 2. So from the first zone, the path of the light, it is x plus lambda by 2. From the second zone, it is x plus 2 lambda by 2, and so on. So the difference in the path, it is equal to lambda by 2. The difference between the successive zones, the light which is coming from the successive zones, it differs by lambda by 2, and the path difference of lambda by 2, it corresponds to half time period. Therefore, these are known as Fresnel's half period zones. Now the annular region between n minus 1th and nth circle. So first of all we have first circle, then we have second circle, then we have third circle, fourth circle, and so on. The annular region between the n minus 1th and nth circle. So we have n minus 1th and nth circle. So the annular region between the n minus 1th and nth circle, it is called as nth half period zone. So this first circle, the whole area which is covered by the first circle, it is called as Fresnel's first half period zone. So this whole area which is covered by the first circle, it is called as the first half period zone. Then the second region which is between the first circle and the second circle, the annular region between the first and the second circle, this annular region, so that will be called as the second half period zone. Similarly, the region between second and the third circle, it is called as the Fresnel's third half period zone. So we have written the same thing in more general way, that the annular region between n minus 1th and nth circle, it is called as nth half period zone. So now we have seen that the wavefront, the exposed part of the wavefront, it can be divided into concentric, circular and concentric zones. So the first circle, the area which is covered by the first circle, that is called as the first half period zone. Then we have the annular region between the first and the second circle, that is called as the second half period zone. So here I have shown the region, the blue region, the innermost region, it is called as the Fresnel's first half period zone. Then the region which is shown by pink color, so this region, it is between the first and the second circle. So this region which is shown by pink color, it is the second half period zone. So keep in mind, only the first half period zone, it covers the full whole circle, whereas all other zones, they are just the annular regions. So they are in the shape of a disc, whereas the first half period zone, it covers the full circle, whereas all other zones, they are annular regions between two circles. So this portion which is shown by pink color, it is the second half period zone. Then this green portion, it is the third half period zone, and so on. We have fourth, fifth, sixth, and so on. We have nth half period zones. So this exposed part of the wavefront, it has been divided into number of circular and concentric zones. So we have M, it is the pole of the wavefront, then M1, it is the radius of the first circle, then M2, it is the radius of the second circle, then M3, it is the radius of the third circle, and so on. Now we are going to find the radii and area of the zones. So we are going to derive the formula for radii and area of the zones. So first of all, we are going to find radius of nth half period zone. So we want to find Rn. So we want to find the radius of nth half period zone, and we have already seen the nth half period zone, it is the region between n minus 1th and nth circle. So radius of nth half period zone, to find the radius of nth half period zone, we have to find the radius of n minus 1 circle, and we want to find the radius of nth circle. So here we have drawn nth circle. In a more general way, we have drawn nth circle. So this is the point M, which is the pole. Here we have the observation point, and this point, it will be Mn, because we are drawing over here the nth circle. So we want to find radius of the nth half period zone. So we are just finding the radius of the nth circle. So that will be equal to, so from this, so in the starting we had said that OM, it is the perpendicular which is drawn on the wavefront. So this one will be perpendicular, and this will form a right angled triangle. So we want to find MMN. So we want to find the radius of the nth circle, which is nothing but the nth half period zone. So radius of the nth half period zone will be same as the radius of the nth circle. So that will be equal to n. So this distance has to be found. So this will be the radius of the nth circle, and this is nothing but the perpendicular. So we will be using the Pythagoras theorem over here. So this n, it will be equal to under root of hypotenuse square minus base square. So what is hypotenuse? It is OMN whole square minus we have OM square. So we are using Pythagoras theorem over here, that this radius mmn, it is equal to under root of OMN square minus OM square. Now what is OMN? As we had drawn in the previous diagram, this distance OM1, it is equal to x plus lambda by 2. Then OM2, it is equal to x plus 2 lambda by 2. Then OM3 is equal to x plus 3 lambda by 2. Similarly, OMN, it will be equal to x plus n lambda by 2. So this OMN, it will be equal to OMN whole square will be equal to x plus n lambda by 2 whole square minus we have OM square. Now this OM is nothing but equal to x. This we have already defined. The distance of the observation point from perpendicular distance of the observation point from the wavefront, it is equal to x, and this distance, it is fixed. So OM square will be equal to x square. So you can simplify this. So we have a plus b whole square. So you can write a square plus b square. Now what will be b square? It will be n square lambda square divided by 4. Then we have 2ab. So that will be equal to nx lambda minus x square will remain as it is. So this will get cancelled with this one. And over here we are going to use very important approximation, that the distance of the observation point from the wavefront, that is x distance, this x, it is very greater than the wavelength of the light. So we have parallel rays. So parallel rays, they are coming from the source, so they will have a particular wavelength. So the distance of the observation point where we are finding the intensity, where we are seeing the diffraction pattern, so that point, it is placed at a very far away distance as compared to the wavelength of the light. So therefore this n square lambda square divided by 4 term, it will be neglected as compared to this nx lambda. As we have seen, the x, it is very greater than lambda. Therefore this term, it can be neglected. So this will be approximately the radius of the nth circle, or you can say the radius of nth half period zone. It will be approximately equal to under root of nx lambda. So this is the final result of the radius of the nth half period zone, and you can see that the x, it is constant. The observation point, it is kept at a constant distance from the wavefront or from the obstacle. So x is constant, lambda is constant. So the radius of the nth half period zone, it varies directly with under root of n. So n, it can be integer. So n will be equal to 1, 2, 3 and so on. So the radius of the nth circle, it will be proportional to square root of integral value. The next is to find the area of the nth half period zone. As we have said, the nth half period zone, it is the region between n minus 1th circle and nth circle. So the region between n minus 1th and the nth circle is nothing but the nth half period zone. As we have seen, the region between first and the second circle, it is called as second half period zone. The region between third and the fourth circle, it is called as the fourth half period zone. Similarly, the region between n minus 1th and nth circle, it is called as nth half period zone. So what will be the area of that region? It will be equal to the area of nth. So what will be area of the nth half period zone? It will be equal to the area of nth circle minus the area of n minus 1 circle. So area will be equal to area of the nth half period zone. It will be equal to pi rn square. So this is the area of the nth circle minus pi r n minus 1 square. So this is the area of the n minus 1 circle. Rn, it is the radius of nth circle, and Rn minus 1, it is the radius of n minus 1 circle. So we will just use the formula that we have just derived, that the radius of nth circle is equal to under root of nx lambda. So we will put the same result over here. So the area of the nth circle, it will be equal to pi into Rn square. So what is Rn square? It is equal to, now Rn is equal to under root of nx lambda. So Rn square from here will be equal to nx lambda minus pi times Rn minus 1 whole square. So that will be equal to n minus 1 into x lambda. So in place of n we will have n minus 1, because we are finding the radius of n minus 1 circle. So that will be equal to this one. So this will be equal to nothing but pi nx lambda minus pi nx lambda plus pi x lambda. So the area of the nth half period zone will be equal to pi times x lambda. So this is the result for the area of nth half period zone. So the area of half period zone is independent of n. So area of the nth half period zone, it is equal to pi x lambda. So it does not depend upon the value of n. So area of half period zone is independent of n. So which means that area of all these zones, the area of first, second, third, fourth and so on, the area of all these zones is almost equal. So it is independent of n, it is independent of this integral value, whereas radius, it depends upon square root of n. But the area of the half period zone, it is independent of n, and it is almost equal for different half period zones.